Hi and welcome. I am Helle, and for a couple of days ago I was by the Bastard Café, a board gaming cafe in Copenhagen. If you're ever in Copenhagen and you love board games, you need to visit the cafe. It is awesome. But at the cafe there were some people showing off their new game that is going on Kickstarter. It is actually on Kickstarter right now, and I will show you the interview about the game.
So Agemonia, it's an adventure game with multiple scenarios and very different paths for the game depending on what choices the players will make with their characters during the game. It will be on Kickstarter on the 7th of September, so very soon. Yep, and it's been in development for several years. It's been for 4 years with us. But the world is based on a role-playing campaign that the designer has had with his players for more than 20 years.
Okay.
So it's very deep and rich in background and story, and the game mechanics have been in development for quite a while as well. So we're very proud and pleased with this game, and we have published many games, but this game has seen more effort and to put it frankly, money put into it than all of our projects so far combined. So it's a huge effort.
Can you give an overview of the game, how it works?
Yes, of course. The characters, they have a background story developed for them. You can find it on the homepage of the game, agemonia.com. There's a voice-acted background story for each of the characters and why they find themselves in the situation they are in the beginning of the game. And that sets them on an adventure through 30 or so scenarios which will determine the fate of the world. And it's set in a fantasy setting. There are no humans in this world, so it's a rich fantasy setting with the background in the role-playing world that he has created, the game designer. And the game mechanics, each round the players of the characters will choose an action which is on the character board. And in addition to that, they will have a maneuver that they can choose from. And the mechanics themselves are simple, but as the characters develop, there will be much more actions added to the character, so that when you level up, you get a lot of different actions to choose from. And depending on the class of the character, if it's a magic user, there will be spells and such. And with a fighter, for example, there will be then different combat actions. And when you level up further, you will even get an additional board for more actions that you slot in like such. Yep. And between different scenarios you can change the actions if you have obtained many of these actions. And there is what we call and what is used in many other games, an AI deck that then operates the actions of the non-player characters and the enemies. Yep. Yes, exactly. And at the beginning of the round, you choose the actions for your character, and there are green, red, and blue actions. The red actions are on average the fastest. So if you choose a red action, you can expect to be one of the first characters to move in the round. If you choose the blue one, then you probably go somewhere in the middle. And if you choose the green one, you're likely to be one of the last characters to act during that round. Exactly. Yes, and these are the signs for the players, and the monsters have comparable colors. So then if you chose this AI or turn this card, first the red monsters would act, then the blue ones, then the red characters, then the characters who had chosen a blue action, then the green monsters and the players with the green action. So it would have gone pretty much as expected, but not necessarily always so. So that's on average. But in this round, for example, the green creatures would have acted first, although the players might have expected that they go last, but you cannot plan for everything. So, yeah. So, and this card will also indicate which action the opponents will take, because they have they take different types of actions. You cannot be sure what they do. So this determines which of the available actions the opponents will take. And there will be different special abilities that can also be triggered by different symbols in the cards.
I personally like this way that you have done, so you can control who is going to go first.
Yes, it's you will have to react to the changing situation in the game.
Yeah.
And what sets, I think, this game apart from many others is that all of the scenarios are played on a pre-printed board. So it's not you don't have to start by setting up the scenario by building up a puzzle that takes half an hour.
Not like in Gloomhaven.
Nope. The setup is really fast. You can start playing in 5 minutes because you just take your character board from the box, slot in the actions you want, and then turn the page for the scenario, and then really off you go. And as I explained to you before we started the interview, we also have an app for this game that has been developed. You don't need it to play the game, but the app has been developed for a very, very long time with high quality voice acting and soundscapes, which will read you out the setting for the scenarios. The characters are voice acted, and it's all done in a professional studio by professional actors. It's really, really high quality. And it really adds to the atmosphere of the game. It's not, of course, mandatory to use. The app is free to download, both for Android and Apple, and you can actually already download it from the App Store today.
But then, when you play the game, it's story-driven. You have a lot of stories, things you will encounter, and you will get to read a lot of cards with different things you have to do.
Absolutely, and that's activated by the story points on each scenario board. You will see here on the map there are different letters, and these are story points. And below each story point there is a number, and that is the distance that the characters will observe this story point. So some events will unfold from a longer distance, and for some events the characters will need to take a closer look. And looks can be deceiving. The map may not turn out to be as you expected, because depending on how the characters play the game, there may be card overlays that will totally change the landscape of the game once you reach the story point, and depending on the actions of the characters. And some of the cards will even expand the game board itself. So, for example, you might encounter a mine which has shafts that go way beyond what is the printed map, and there may be even items printed on the map that once observed closer are something completely different than what they seem from afar. And the board itself is a bit of an exit game, because if you closely look into the map, there will be small clues in different scenarios as to what there may be, but there are always hints of what is to come. So you cannot solve the scenario by just peeking into the map, but there will be small clues and riddles that will help the players advance. And the scenarios are usually time constrained. We have a deck that contains, this is called the Fate deck, and this is the clock for many scenarios. So at the beginning of the round you turn a card, and it will be a timer for the scenario that may also trigger some events. So not only the story points, but also the Fate deck may trigger certain events that will happen irrespective of where the characters are on the board. And depending on the pace the characters take, what actions they take, the scenario will unfold very differently, and the outcome of each scenario will affect the scenarios afterwards. So depending on the party and their actions, the outcome of the game may take very, very different paths, and you may find yourself a villain or a hero at the end of the game. And some of the non-player characters you meet they might survive the journey together with you, or they might perish, and it depends on what actions you take in the game. But I can't reveal too much of the secrets.
You can't reveal too much, but I can tell you, you will get cards and different missions you have to accomplish in the game, and there will be monsters that will come after you, and you have some abilities that you're going to use with these different things you're going to meet. And each of the characters, they are special, they're unique.
Yes.
And so you have to figure out who is going to do which tasks you are going to meet in the game.
Yep. And depending on the player, the characters when you start, they are generic for that character, but you at some point in the game you will have to, for example, choose a profession. So for example, this character, they may either choose the profession of an assassin or a witch, and depending on which profession they choose, it will be a very different character to play. But then it locks your fate for that character for the remaining of the game, and it will be a very different game depending on what choice you make, because you will get very different abilities, and the storyline for the character will diverge depending on what profession you choose.
So this is a game where you have a lot of stuff and stories that will evolve as you play the game, and your character will also evolve as you play the game.
Yes, and these scenarios that you see here, this is just the introductory scenario that will teach the players to play the game. There are 3 scenarios in this booklet, and they're all playable on tabletop at the moment. Yeah, and
I think this was the start one on this page, right?
Yes, and just to illustrate that, for the first scenario, you have this many scenario cards which will include the points of interest and the different events that will unfold. For the second introductory scenario,
twice as many cards.
Yeah, and then for the full game scenarios, you will have a thick deck of cards, and of course, many of the cards will never see play, because the choices that the players make will not reveal them, because the choices you make affect the outcome of the game, and for other parties the story will be different, and for others again different. So
I guess you're pretty excited about
I'm
getting
very
this game to the Kickstarter.
Yes, we've been working on it for a long time, and there's so many talented people from the sound world creators to the actors and the game designers and the many artists that we have used, and it's really the work of so many talented people, and we're really excited that the team is finally seeing this come to reality.
I will say I tried the game. I tried the 2 first scenarios, and I thought it was fun to play the game. So I look forward to seeing how it will go for you on the Kickstarter.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And that was my interview at the Bastard Café. I hope you got a glimpse about what the game is about. And it's currently on Kickstarter. I did try the game 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I played the first 2 tutorials. And this game, it kind of reminds me of a mix with Bloodborne, where you have this story-driven element where you will discover things as you play the game, and then you have to fulfill some different tasks. And then it also reminds me of Gloomhaven, kind of also with the way that the monsters, they will get activated, that it will be different which monsters is going to go first. You have that in Gloomhaven 2, where you will flip over cards and they have an initiative, and it will be different if the players is going to go first or the monsters, all depending on which cards you have played. And as a player, you will choose between the different actions your character has, and you will choose wisely which task you're going to take depending on what you are good at, what your character is good at. And you have the dice, and with the dice you have to fulfill some different goals, so you have to overcome different tasks that you are going to come up against. And I like in this game that you on the dice, if you roll a specific roll where you hit, you will also be able to roll the die again. So that means even if you only have 2 dice, you could actually maybe hit 3 times if you're lucky. And then of course this game has a lot of story in it. Only tried the first 2 tutorials, but they have 30 stories and have been a long way in the development. But I will leave it up to you to discover and see if this game might be something for you. I definitely did enjoy my first plays of the game.